Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into something that is absolutely crucial for the home building industry: workforce safety metrics. If you manage a site, if you oversee compliance, or you're tracking operational risks for a builder, calculating your Total Recordable Incident Rate, or TIR, according to the SASB standard IFHB 320A.1, well, it is just non-negotiable. So we're going to break down the definitions, we'll look at workforce classifications, and go over the exact rules of the road. That way, you can report these metrics accurately and honestly with total confidence. So, here is our roadmap for the tutorial. We're going to cover 1. The stakes of safety, 2. Defining incidents, 3. Classifying the workforce, and 4. The TIR math itself. All right, let's jump right into section 1, the stakes of safety, and why getting this reporting right actually matters. The physical realities of a job site translate into massive ripple effects. Home construction requires a ton of physical labor. Think about it. Site excavation, framing, roofing, it's all incredibly demanding work. Workers are out there constantly exposed to risks from falls, heavy machinery, the weather, which historically leads to relatively high injury and fatality rates for the whole sector. And man, when things go wrong, the costs are severe. Internally, you're looking at project delays, super expensive downtime, spiking insurance premiums, and workers' comp costs. Externally, poor safety records lead straight to regulatory compliance costs, fines, and penalties. But the real kicker is an entity's social license to operate. If a builder gets a reputation for being unsafe, it doesn't just hurt the bottom line today, it severely damages their brand and their ability to secure future permits, partnerships, and really community trust. Moving right along to section 2, defining incidents. Basically, what exactly counts as a recordable event?
Okay, so before we can calculate any rates, we have to know what goes into the incident bucket. And according to the standard, not every bumped knee or minor scrape is going to make it into your reporting metrics. It is all about understanding the threshold. A work-related injury or illness becomes a recordable incident if it results in death, days away from work, restricted work, or being transferred to another job, or loss of consciousness. Also, and this is a big one, it includes medical treatment beyond first aid. The standard explicitly defines first aid as emergency care before regular medical aid can be provided. So, putting a basic bandage on a tiny cut, not recordable. But needing stitches from a medical professional, that crosses the line. That is a recordable incident. It also includes any significant injury or illness diagnosed by a licensed healthcare pro, even if they don't actually miss a single day of work. So, you've got an incident that meets that medical severity threshold. But wait, before you add it to your stats, you have to ask one absolutely crucial question. Is it actually work-related? The standard is super precise about this. Work-related incidents are those resulting from events or exposures in the work environment. But here's the thing. The work environment is not just the physical boundaries of the construction site. It extends outward. It includes the equipment or materials used by the employee no matter where they are. And what about travel? Well, if an employee is traveling and at the time of the injury they were doing work activities for the employer, yeah, that counts too. Oh, and one more really vital detail. A work-related incident has to be a new case. You don't count a previously recorded injury that's just flaring up again. It literally has to be a net new event.
All right, section 3, classifying the workforce, specifically direct versus contract employees.
Now that we know what an incident is, whose incidents are we actually responsible for tracking? In home building, the workforce is super blended. You've got your own staff, but you also rely heavily on subcontractors. Well, SASB IFHB 320A.1 requires you to calculate and disclose your safety rates for both groups separately. First, you have your direct employees. This is straightforward. These are individuals on the entity's payroll. Full-time, part-time, seasonal, migrant, executive, hourly. Doesn't matter. On the payroll, direct employee. Then you have contract employees. Now pay close attention here because this is where companies always make reporting errors. Contract employees are people who are not on your payroll, but whom your entity supervises or manages. Think of, say, a roofing crew hired through a local labor broker or a temp agency. If you are directing their day-to-day work on your site, their safety falls under your reporting umbrella, and you absolutely must report their rates distinctly from your direct employees.
Okay, so we know what an incident is, and we know who we're counting. Let's move to section 4, the TIR math, and see how to calculate these safety rates.
The true beauty of this standard is that the math is actually incredibly straightforward. Plus, it is the exact same formula whether you're calculating your total recordable incident rate or your fatality rate. Step 1. Take your statistic count. That's the total number of recordable incidents or fatalities that happened during the year for that specific workforce group. Step 2. Multiply that raw number by 200,000. Step 3. Take that result and divide it by the total number of hours worked by all employees in that specific group during the reported year.
Now, let's pause for a second and look at that number, 200,000. When you first see this formula, you're probably thinking, where on earth does this completely arbitrary figure come from? Why not multiply it by 1,000,000 or 10,000?
Well, it turns out it's not arbitrary at all. That number, 200,000, simply represents the total number of hours that 100 full-time workers would provide in a single year. Think about it. 100 workers working a standard 40 hours a week for 50 weeks a year, assuming a couple of weeks off for vacation or holidays. 100 times 40 times 50 gives you exactly 200,000 hours. By hardwiring this specific baseline into the formula, it acts as a massive equalizer. It standardizes your safety rate. Whether your company has 50 employees or 5,000, the TIR gives you a rate per 100 full-time workers. It makes the data perfectly scalable, allowing investors to compare the safety performance of a giant publicly traded developer against a much smaller regional builder, totally apples to apples.
Which brings us to our final thought. We've mastered the definitions, the workforce classifications, and the math. But as the standard reminds us, the ultimate goal isn't just to fill out a spreadsheet. To avoid those massive human and financial costs we talked about earlier, entities have to foster a real culture of safety with proactive management plans, ongoing training, and regular audits. So, I will leave you with this. As you implement these calculations, are your reporting metrics just a compliance exercise to avoid fines? Or are you using this data to build a true proactive culture of safety that makes sure every single worker gets home at the end of the day?